This week on ANN, humanitarians mobilize their resources in response to Typhoon Hagupit in the Philippines.
Students from 2 Adventist universities in the United States take a stand for racial equality.
And a volcano eruption on the island nation of Cape Verde destroys the Adventist church and its surrounding community.
These stories and more coming up.
This is ANN, a service of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church. Thanks so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, as the residents of the Philippines recover from yet another typhoon, humanitarians have positioned themselves to distribute thousands of resources to help local families. Typhoon Hagupit, or Typhoon Ruby as it's referred to by locals, hit the nation December 6 with winds of up to 150 kilometers per hour, or 93 miles per hour. The storm claimed the lives of 22 people and displaced thousands. Last week, the Adventist Development and Relief Agency placed its emergency response on high alert in preparation for the storm. Typhoon Hagupit comes a year after Typhoon Haiyan ravaged the Philippines and killed more than 6,000 people. Terry Van Bignut shared how the agency will assist the affected residents.
ADRA, in coordination with the Adventist Community Services, we were able to preposition a lot of material and supplies and staff as well, which means that we were able to be on the ground fairly quickly, especially in eastern Samar and northern Samar. Currently, ADRA is distributing food and shelter materials and supplies to 2,000 families, and as we are finalizing the needs assessment, most likely over the next few days we will provide a lot more assistance as well.
In the United States, 2 recent cases involving police officers killing unarmed African-American men has sparked an outcry from communities throughout the nation who want leaders to address racial inequalities within the country's judicial system. A series of protests across the country first began when a grand jury decided not to indict Officer Darren Wilson, who fatally shot Michael Brown, an unarmed black teenager. On the heels of the Michael Brown case came the announcement of another grand jury decision to not press charges against Daniel Pantaleo, an officer who used an unauthorized chokehold that led to the death of Eric Garner. In response to these 2 stories, students from 2 Adventist universities decided to make their voices heard through peaceful protests. In the U.S. state of Alabama, more than 300 students from Oakwood University marched in the streets to take a stand against police brutality. 2 days later, the school held a forum to discuss how to make tangible changes in their community. In the U.S. state of Michigan, more than 200 students from Andrews University participated in a March for Justice. Students also organized a town hall where students had a safe space to share their hurt and unrest surrounding the cases.
Also in response to the Michael Brown and Eric Garner cases, Dan Jackson, president of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in North America, issued a statement that addressed the growing number of demonstrations throughout the country. Jackson said, "It is time for our society to engage in open, honest, civil, and productive conversation about the rights and equality of every member of our community. We pray that the tragedy of these 2 deaths will bring about much-needed change and address the pain that many ethnic groups are facing in this country." To read the full statement, visit nadadventist.org.
2 Adventist buildings were among the many houses and structures that were recently destroyed in Cape Verde due to a volcanic eruption. Lava from the Pico de Fogo volcano began its eruption November 23 and continued to spew lava for 2 weeks. The town of Chadas Calderas, which has 1,200 residents, was completely destroyed by lava and ash. An Adventist church and school were also destroyed. Thousands of residents from various parts of the island nation are pulling together to help displaced families.
The Seventh-day Adventist Church's ministry to the deaf is gaining traction worldwide with increased coordination to find effective ways to reach members of the often neglected subculture. This year marks the first time that each of the denomination's 13 world divisions has a designated coordinator for deaf ministries in their area. Larry Evans, Associate Stewardship Ministries Director and Advocate for Ministries to the Deaf, says only about 2% of deaf people are Christian, and more work needs to be done to reach that group of people. The development of resources to the deaf includes a new website with sections for both deaf and people who hear.
You may have heard the compelling statistics that of the 250 million culturally deaf people in the world, only 2% are Christian. In North America, our committee membership has been intentionally populated by people who are culturally deaf or who are hearing and have an enlightened understanding of deaf needs and values. It's a formidable challenge, and we are committed to loving and sharing the love of Christ with this precious group. The Church in North America is supporting various ministries, such as Three Angels Deaf Ministry, our official resource center, with a variety of projects that include development of DVDs, outreach at national deaf conventions, an online Bible school, deaf camp meetings, including one specifically for deaf young adults, leadership training, and evangelism. Also, the NAD funds a chaplain to serve on the campus of Gallaudet University here in Washington, D.C. There is a growing intention to ensure there are qualified American Sign Language, ASL, interpreters at church-sponsored events. The General Conference has implemented the Adventist Deaf Ministries International Ministry, and its chief liaison, Dr. Larry Evans, says the three greatest needs are, number one, more interpreters. Number two, hearing must be intentional about making friends with deaf people. And last but not least, the deaf need to be included in all the activities of the church, and not just for other deaf people.
Leaders of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in North America recently granted a school in Canada academy status, making it the nation's first and only Seventh-day Adventist mission school. The Mamawe-Atascocita Native School now officially operates as an Adventist school that offers classes from kindergarten all the way through high school. School administrators say they believe the church's support will help raise high school completion rates among its First Nation students, or people of Aboriginal descent, in the Canadian region.
On the vast continent of North America, we find the Cree Native people entwined throughout the core or center of the two great nations of Canada and the United States. It was precisely to serve this Native people group that in 1984, devout Seventh-day Adventist Christian men and women committed themselves to building a model school dedicated to providing young people with a high-quality education based on the principles of service, honor, and respect to the great Creator and their fellow men. In the midst of the four Cree Indian bands that make up the Hobbema Reserve in Canada, the Mamawe-Atascocita Native School was established in 2003.
The way the school sounds, Mamawe-Atascocita Native School, I would say it's kind of traditional and fun here.
Daily activities at the school include academic curriculum, physical education through sports and outdoor recreational activities, and also Native culture respectfully and appropriately encouraged with classes for the Cree language.
As we contemplate the world we live in today and the ever-increasing rate of crime, immoral behavior, and violence, Mamawe-Atascocita Native School has become a safe haven for our children, in which I am so thankful for.
In this school, we learn to respect God and other human beings here, and we just get along. And before I came to this school, I never really used to believe in God, and this school changed me. There's no gang violence or vandalisms and stuff like that. I don't know, I feel safe here. I feel like I could live here.
I'm an elected leader with our local community here with Samson Cree Nation, and before I got into council, I sent my son here. I could send him to school anywhere to get the academics. The academics wasn't my issue. Was, will I get assistance for my son? His grades went up from a C student to an A student when he completed. I have nothing but positive words to say about this school.
As a result of the ongoing Ukrainian crisis, members throughout the Seventh-day Adventist Church's Euro-Asia region have found various ways to help the thousands of displaced residents in their area. Humanitarians from ADRA have shipped more than 7 tons of goods, including hygienic kits, clothes, and shoes to affected residents in eastern Ukraine. 2 Adventist churches in western Ukraine sent warm clothes and food to residents of eastern Ukraine. One of the churches also held a benefit concert.
Seventh-day Adventist publishing house managers, publishing directors, and bookstore managers from more than 40 countries gathered in Madrid, Spain last month to attend a special conference on publishing and new technologies. Several leaders of the Adventist Church's General Conference attended that meeting, including President Ted Wilson, Vice President Delbert Baker, and Associate Ministerial Secretary Jonas Ahais. The event was organized by the church's Inter-European region and the Safaliz Publishing House. Many attendees said they considered the conference a historical milestone for the publishing ministry. Safaliz Publishing House, located in the outskirts of Madrid, also re-inaugurated its headquarters last month following a massive remodeling project. Improvements include a bookstore, museum, and a showroom. Safaliz is one of the most international publishing houses of the Adventist World Church. The facility produces books in more than 30 languages that are distributed by literature evangelists in more than 100 countries.
Coming up, an Adventist Children's Center in Moldova is awarded for its service.
As president of a 17 million member global church, I spend a lot of time traveling to visit our worldwide church. Unfortunately, even if I traveled every single day, I wouldn't be able to meet a fraction of our Seventh-day Adventist church family. However, I want to share some experiences about our worldwide family. This is why the General Conference Communication Department is launching a new blog called Presidential Perspectives. Now, this page will be used to share sermons, articles, photos, and videos from the Office of the President. So stop by and get to know us at perspectives.adventist.org.
The clay feels like it's one continuous form flowing from my mind to my hand to my tool right to the sculpture that I'm working on. And that's being in the zone, that's being lost in the creative process. And that to me is a gift of God. I used to think it was exclusive to creative people like art and music, but I've talked to lawyers, I've talked to doctors who completely get lost in their work, and all of a sudden we realize that we are going to the same place that God used himself in order to create earth. I think as human beings, we're incomplete unless we learn to experience that, unless we pursue that experience of knowing what God felt like to create. And he didn't give that gift to dolphins and dogs, as wonderful animals as they are. He gave it to humans, and it fulfills, I think, part of who we are.
As I was reading The Great Hope, this phrase caught my attention. When the Savior was about to be separated from his disciples, he comforted them in their sorrow with the assurance that he would come again. He said, "Let not your heart be troubled. In my Father's house are many mansions. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself." John 14:1-3. Here is why this brings me hope. The angels repeated this promise. John, Paul, many writers have reminded us of this. All through the ages, hope of the faithful has been looking forward to Christ's return. I see suffering, pain, persecution, sorrow all around, and I know that soon this will end when Christ fulfills his promise.
Welcome back. And now for more news from our global church community.
A ministry backed by ADRA in Moldova was recently awarded 5,000 euros for its work with homeless children. The Rainbow of Hope Children's Center was selected out of 176 applicants to receive a grant from a local foundation that helps disadvantaged children and families. Rainbow of Hope serves as a place of refuge for children who are homeless or have difficult living situations with their families. The center also provides medical care and educational services.
Church members in the Cayman Islands found a practical way to help a member of their community who was in desperate need of home repairs. When a youth ministries group from Grand Cayman visited the home of the 73-year-old woman for a community outreach program, they recognized the opportunity for compassion. Due to an altercation with a family member, all of her windows were destroyed and her furniture was heavily damaged. Local members of the Berea and Bethel Seventh-day Adventist churches arranged for local companies to donate materials needed to give her house the much-needed facelift. The members cleaned her house, painted her walls, and secured her doors and windows. As a result of the church's service, the woman said her faith in the community had been restored. She said the church's actions left her feeling like she was in the presence of the Lord.
An Adventist leader in South America will be featured on a new national television program in Brazil about different religions. Rafael Hassi, Communication and Religious Liberty Director for the Seventh-day Adventist Church in South America, is set to appear on a show titled Between Heaven and Earth. The show seeks to explore the many religions that are represented in Brazil's vast culture. Hassi will discuss various topics, including prosperity, sin, and religions in the modern world. The program is set to air next month.
Adventists in New York last month volunteered their time to encourage participants of the TCS New York City Marathon. The Greater New York Conference sent this report.
On a brisk fall morning in New York City, over 50,000 race runners, cyclists, and wheelchair racers from around the world participated in the annual TCS NYC Marathon. This 26.2-mile race started in Staten Island and ended in Manhattan Central Park. The 40-degree weather did not discourage racers as they were cheered on by the masses behind the barricades. With over 20 fluid stations and 100 groups of volunteers, members of the Greater New York and Northeastern Conference brought in one of the largest groups of volunteers, averaging in about 176 volunteers at 8 different fluid stations. In addition, local vendors supported live performances, keeping both the crowd and racers in high spirits. Members of both conferences were more than elated to represent the Get Your Compassion On movement by wearing distinct blue hats with the word compassion written on them. Many of those who participated from both conferences were more than happy to share their experiences.
My wife and I, we were with the Pathfinders, so we have a whole bunch of Pathfinders over here all spread out, so we wanted them also to experience that like we experienced it first time.
You know, just coming out here and meeting people from all different walks of life and just showing people that we're here and we're here to show love. Compassion is what it's all about.
It feels good because I could be a part of something different, I could help the community, and I could meet new people and become friends with them too.
And remember, we're all in this great race. It's not where you start, but it's where you finish.
More than 5 million Australians will have the opportunity to watch an Adventist use sand to share the story of Jesus on a national television program. Record in Focus has more.
Equipped with a light box, a video camera, data projector and a bucket of sand, Central Coast mum and Adventist artist Tiani Page has attracted the attention of Win Television, operated by Channel 9.
I make sure that whenever I work with a large organisation or corporate setting, that the stories I'm telling, the expressions that I'm creating, fit within my spiritual value system and my worldview. My faith is a huge part of who I am, and as such I wanted it to be a big part of what I do in sand, in the telling of the stories.
Win Television has asked Tiani to prepare something special for this year's Christmas broadcast.
And finally in the news this week, starting December 14 in the United States, the CBS Religion and Culture television show will air an interfaith special entitled World Religions, Sikhs, Seventh-day Adventists, and Mennonites. Viewers will see interviews from the Seventh-day Adventist Church General Vice President Ella Simmons, Adventist Review Editor Bill Knott, and Assistant to the President of Maranatha International Richard Dirksen. The program seeks to shed light on religions that aren't well known in the U.S. Check your local listings to see when the CBS special will air in your region.
Still ahead, your weekly social media report.
But up next, learn more about the upcoming Communication and Technology Conference.
God poured out His Spirit in Pentecost power after His church spent 10 days together pleading for His promised blessing. He is ready to do it again today. Experience the renewal of the Holy Spirit by following the disciples' example. Participate in 10 days of prayer, January 7 to 17, 2015.
When I go to sleep, I pray for Jesus to help me not to have bad dreams. Pray for my grandpa because he is in cancer right now.
I pray I don't want to get sick anymore.
I pray for my family.
Please pray 7 in the morning, 7 in the evening, and 7 days a week.
I've hit rock bottom. I'm at my wit's end. I've been searching looking for something more. Some people stop here. Some people don't get up. But I haven't given up hope yet. And I know it's going to take faith.
Welcome back. For this week's Tech Corner, John Beckett shares how you can keep up on information for the upcoming Global Adventist Internet Network Conference.
Each year, church leaders and lay people interested in using technology for mission gather to share what they've learned and work on new ideas at the GAIN, or GAIN Conference. This February, the conference will be held online instead of bringing everybody together in the same location. Presentations and discussions will be repeated so that no matter where you live, you can join in. The format will be presentations about communication, mission, and technology issues, followed by panel discussions which offer online participation. This will be a unique opportunity to be inspired and learn about interesting ways technology is being used all over the world to share the good news. Everybody interested in using technology for ministry is welcome to join. But if you'd like to stay up to date and receive information about how you can join in February, you need to visit the GAIN website at gain.adventist.org to sign up for the email list. You might also like to watch videos and presentations there from previous years.
And now it's time for your social media feature from Angela Type A. This week, learn how to track your ministry's reach on Twitter.
If you have a Twitter account, there's an important tool available to you that you may not be using. Twitter Analytics launched in July for advertisers and verified users, but is now open to all users. Here you can see details on your tweets, engagement, clicks, retweets, favorites, replies, and discover more about your followers. To start, simply go to analytics.twitter.com. There you will need to sign in with your Twitter account information. The first time you log in, it may ask you to sign up for Twitter ads, but you do not need to set up an advertising account in order to continue. On the Tweets page, you'll see information about your impressions, which is the number of times users saw your tweets in their timeline. You can see this information by day, but also by tweet. This way, you can see which tweets people are interacting with the most, which will give you an idea of what content has been the most interesting to them. If you click on a specific tweet, you can see the detailed breakdown of the engagement. Engagement is when a user interacts with your tweet by clicking, replying, retweeting, etc. When you click the Followers tab at the top of the page, you'll see not only a graph showing how your number of followers has changed over time, but also an overview of interesting information. Here you'll learn what countries and top cities your followers come from, their top interests, and who else they follow on Twitter. So check out Twitter Analytics, because the more you understand about the impact of your presence on social media, the better relationships you can build with those who have chosen to connect with you online.
Are you having trouble balancing the demands of life while trying to sustain your connection with your husband or wife? For this month's feature from Family Ministries, Willie and Elaine Oliver share some realistic tips for couples trying to keep the spark alive throughout your marriage.
What's a couple supposed to do when they're so busy? You know, they're busy at work, busy with the kids, busy with church and community. How does a couple stay connected in spite of all this busyness?
The reality is our lives today in this 21st century are just impossible. We feel the pressure to do so much with our children and so much in our community and so much at church. Couples need to be realistic and they need to be balanced. They need to have time for their children and they need to have time for themselves. What we like to say to couples is that a way to stay connected throughout the lifespan is to have a date night each week. Make it a part of your religion. You know, whatever you're doing, arrange it so that you can have that date night that reconnects you and helps you to stay in touch, connected, in love, and interested in what you're doing in your lives.
Yeah, and it's really important for couples to put that focus on their relationship. And it's too easy sometimes to spend that time only on your kids, and couples really need to make their relationship a priority.
The reality is, if you don't plan to do it, you're not going to do it. So plan your work and work your plan. Stay connected for your sake and for the children's sake.
Now let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history. This week, learn about the origins of the Adventist Student Literature Evangelism Program.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History. On December 7, 1946, Adventist radio ministry began in Madagascar when Jean Zurcher, a Swiss missionary, broadcast in French. Over the next 3 years, Zurcher broadcast 149 times on a range of biblical subjects. On December 8, 1901, veteran evangelist Orrin S. Ferren dedicated an Adventist church in the town of Sheridan in the U.S. state of Wyoming. Ferren's preaching in Sheridan in 1895 had created a church of 20 members who lacked a place of worship for 6 years. The church they built was the first Seventh-day Adventist church to be built in Wyoming. Sadly, Ferren died just 3 months later, age 52. On December 9, in 1907, E.R. Palmer, director of the General Conference Publishing Department, recommended to the General Conference Committee the creation of a scholarship scheme for literature evangelists in the North American division. His proposal was adopted, and later it spread around the world. Since that time, thousands of Adventist students have earned money for college tuition by selling Adventist literature during their summer vacations. On December 10, in 1894, Frederick W. Bishop and Thomas H. Davis arrived in Valparaiso, Chile, on a ship that had sailed from San Francisco. They were the first church workers sent as missionaries to Chile. But they joined Claire A. Nolan, a self-supporting literature evangelist who had moved into Chile from Argentina 2 months earlier. That was This Week in Adventist History.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
In the meantime, join our global conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can connect with other Adventists worldwide through more stories, photos, and videos. Visit Facebook/Adventist News, Twitter/Adventist Church, and Instagram @Adventist Church.
Our good news for this week comes from Joshua chapter 1, verse 9. The passage says, "This is my command, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go."
That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.